You ever thought you knew someone inside and out? I did. Or at least I thought I did. But then, well, let me tell you something. Sometimes the person closest to you can be living a whole different life. And trust me, you'll be shocked when you find out just how deep that deception goes. How would you react if everything you knew about the person you loved turned out to be a lie? Would you fight to uncover the truth, or would you walk away and leave it all behind? I lean back in my chair, running a hand through my hair, trying to collect my thoughts before continuing. I always thought I had it all figured out, you know? You ever had that moment where everything in your life just clicks into place, and you think, finally, I have it all? That's what I thought, too, before I learned that my partner, the person I trusted the most, had been hiding a dark secret. And the worst part, it all started unraveling in the most unexpected way. The weight of what I'm about to tell you isn't something I share lightly, but here I am, opening up in ways I never thought I would, because trust me, this is something you need to hear. My name's Ethan Reed, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a decent city, a little too fast-paced for my liking sometimes, but I've managed to carve out a life here. I always thought my life was heading in the right direction. Successful career, a loving partner, the whole deal. I was content, living what most would consider a dream. But dreams can shatter faster than you think. I pause, letting the silence hang in the air, and let out a deep sigh, the kind you give when everything you've believed in comes crashing down. At the time, I was living with Anna, my girlfriend of 3 years. She was everything to me, beautiful, smart, caring. Or so I thought. We'd built a life together, a life that seemed perfect on the surface. But sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who can hurt you the most. I look up at the ceiling, taking a deep breath, the heaviness of the memory still weighing on me. It's hard to talk about, but this is my truth now. And it all started with one strange phone call, one small, seemingly insignificant moment that I brushed off at first. But that call, that was the beginning of everything falling apart. What happened after that? Well, it's something I never saw coming. Not in a million years. I lean forward, locking eyes with you, almost daring you to understand what I'm about to reveal. It's funny, isn't it? How life can go from being everything you ever wanted to feeling like a lie in the blink of an eye. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, before I even knew I was living a lie. At first, everything was perfect. Anna and I were that couple everyone envied. Always smiling, always together, always making it look easy. We had what most people would call the perfect life. I had my career, she had hers, and we supported each other every step of the way. We spent weekends exploring the city, holidays with our families, and countless nights talking about our future. We had big plans, dreams of traveling the world, starting a family, growing old together. Every conversation seemed like a shared vision. I thought we were the epitome of a modern-day love story. My friends always said we were goals, and I couldn't argue. I genuinely believed I had everything I ever wanted. She had this way of making me feel like I was the only person who mattered. The way she would look at me, the small gestures, a touch on the arm, a shared glance across the room that spoke volumes. We were in sync. Even on tough days, it felt like we could get through anything together. We had become each other's safe haven, and I truly believed we were unbreakable. But there were these little moments, subtle shifts, I brushed off at first, like how she'd sometimes become distant for no reason, staring off into space when we were supposed to be having a good time, or how she'd suddenly be too busy to meet up on weekends when we'd been planning for weeks. At the time, I told myself it was just the stress of life. Work was hectic. Family stuff was complicated. It was nothing, I convinced myself. After all, everything else was perfect. But things started to change. Small details I couldn't ignore anymore. Strange phone calls late at night. At first, I thought she was just busy with work, but there was something off about the way she answered. Her tone was always a little too defensive, her eyes darting away from mine when I asked simple questions. And the timing was always strange. Calls at midnight or on weekends when we were supposed to be together. Then there were the little white lies, like how she'd be out running errands for hours, but couldn't explain exactly what she had to do or where she went. When I asked, she'd shrug it off with a quick, "Just needed to pick something up. It's nothing, don't worry about it." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. One evening, after a particularly long week, I asked her outright, "Anna, is everything okay? You've been acting weird lately. I feel like you're pulling away from me." I expected a simple answer, something reassuring. But she didn't give me that. Instead, she laughed it off, brushing it aside like it was nothing. "Come on, Ethan. You know, it's just stress. Nothing to worry about. You're overthinking it." She had this way of deflecting, making me feel like I was the one creating problems. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But a nagging doubt lingered in my mind, growing every day. The more she shut me out, the more I started to question everything I thought I knew about her, about us. In that moment, I should have pressed harder. I should have asked more questions. But I didn't. I let it go. And that, I realize now, was the first mistake. The cracks in our relationship began to show slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. It wasn't like one big moment of betrayal. It was 1,000 little things that started to add up. Anna became more distant, emotionally unavailable, and it was starting to eat at me. There was always a reason for everything, of course. A work deadline here, a family emergency there. But I knew, deep down, that something had changed. It wasn't just her mood swings or the late nights anymore. It was the little things that made me feel invisible. She stopped making time for us. The weekends we used to cherish together became excuses to be somewhere else. I found myself eating dinner alone, staring at an empty chair across from me, waiting for her to come back home, wondering what she was doing when she wasn't with me. She was always on her phone, even when we were together. It would buzz constantly, and she'd glance at it, but never respond. The sound of her phone vibrating would set me on edge every time. And then it started. Her phone was always on silent, even during meals. She'd say, "It's just work," but I could feel the tension building. We were no longer in sync, and I hated the person I was becoming, someone who was suspicious, questioning every word, every look. The late nights became more frequent. She'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, always with an excuse that didn't quite make sense. Her usual routine of spending time with me, unwinding after the day, had disappeared. It was like she was someone else, someone I didn't know. I started getting restless. I couldn't keep ignoring it. The love we once had felt like it was slipping through my fingers. One night, after another argument about nothing in particular, I snapped. "What's going on with you, Anna? You're never here. You're always on your phone, and you've stopped caring about us. What the hell is really going on?" I demanded, feeling the fury and hurt mixed together. She turned on me, eyes cold, and we were suddenly no longer two people in love. We were adversaries. "You don't get it, Ethan. I'm doing the best I can. Maybe you're the one who's not enough." Her voice cracked, and the words hit me like a slap. It was as though she was pushing me away. In the heat of the argument, she blurted something I didn't quite catch. It didn't fit the narrative we'd been running. "If you really knew what I've been dealing with," she trailed off, quickly silencing herself. That wasn't like her. What did she mean by that? It hung in the air, an unsettling silence that left me with even more questions. What was she hiding? The very next day, I got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, low, and hurried. "I think you need to know something about your girlfriend," the voice said, and my heart sank. The tip I received wasn't just a vague rumor. It was specific, too specific to ignore. The caller told me about Anna's secret meetings, the late-night rendezvous that I'd never known about, and a name I'd never heard before. I hung up the phone, stunned, heart racing. I thought maybe it was a prank, but everything inside me screamed that it was real. I needed answers, and I couldn't wait any longer. That evening, I decided to dig deeper. I went through her things, not proud of what I was doing, but I was desperate for the truth. And there it was, staring me in the face. A series of texts between Anna and someone named Tom. The tone was flirtatious, too intimate for just friends, filled with inside jokes and plans to meet. My hands shook as I read through them. Anna had been seeing someone else. But it wasn't just that. The messages hinted at something darker. I found photos. One in particular, a picture of Anna with her arms around him, smiling in a way I had never seen her smile with me. It didn't end there. As I looked further, I found receipts for places I knew she hadn't gone with me, unexplained trips, strange financial transactions. The secrets she'd kept from me weren't just about an affair. There was something deeper, something far more dangerous. Anna wasn't just leading a double life. She was hiding a past I couldn't even begin to comprehend. But it wasn't just her betrayal that shattered me. It was the revelation that she had been living in a web of lies for years. Anna was involved in something that went beyond love or cheating. She had debts, connections to people I didn't even want to know about. The secrets I uncovered were enough to break anyone, but I had to confront her. The next day, I confronted Anna with everything. She broke down in front of me, but it wasn't the apology I had expected. Instead, she just said, "I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared." But how could I trust her now? How could I ever go back to the person I thought I knew? And in that moment, everything I had built my life on felt like a lie. Anna wasn't just my partner. She was a stranger. The moment I walked into that living room, holding everything I had uncovered, it felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away. Anna sat there, her eyes wide, as if she had no idea how much she had already lost. I slammed the phone on the table, the screen lighting up with those incriminating texts, the receipts, everything. I couldn't look at her without seeing the stranger she had become. How long? I asked, my voice trembling. I wasn't sure if I wanted to know the answer, but I had to hear it. I had to know just how deep her deception ran. She avoided my gaze, and for the first time in years, I saw the fear in her eyes. It wasn't the kind of fear I'd seen before. This was different. This was the fear of being caught, the kind that came from knowing there was no way to hide anymore. How long, Anna? I repeated more urgently now, demanding the truth. She stopped herself, biting her lip, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of everything was finally crashing down on her. Months. It's been going on for months, Ethan. I didn't know how to stop. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Months. She'd been lying to me for months. But it wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was the fact that she had kept me in the dark about everything. She'd led me to believe we were fine, that we were solid, when all along I was living in a house built on lies. The truth was far worse than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just about a physical betrayal. It was everything. The trips she'd taken behind my back, the hidden bank accounts, the promises she'd made to someone else. She had been slipping away from me bit by bit, living a double life, and I had never even noticed. I felt my chest tighten, my heart shattering into pieces. I had trusted Anna more than anyone in the world, and now it felt like I was drowning in her lies, like I had been gasping for air, thinking everything was okay, while she had been slowly suffocating me. Anger surged through me, hot and sharp, like a firestorm that couldn't be put out. How could you do this to me? I shouted, my voice cracking. My hands trembled, and I could feel my control slipping. I had spent years building my life around this woman, and now it felt like everything was collapsing in on itself. I wanted to hurt her the way she had hurt me, but in the midst of all that anger, there was something else. A hollow ache in my chest, a deep, gnawing pain that I couldn't escape. How could I have missed this? How could I have been so blind? The questions spun in my head, making everything feel like a blur of confusion and disbelief. Anna's face twisted in regret as she explained the depth of her betrayal. The affair was only the tip of the iceberg. She had been involved in something far darker than I could ever have imagined. The person she had been seeing wasn't just some casual fling. It was someone deeply tied to her past, someone dangerous. They had used each other for more than just love. There were deals, debts, and threats involved. She wasn't just cheating. She was entangled in a web of lies that went beyond our relationship. Her voice was shaking now, but I couldn't find it in me to feel sorry for her. I didn't know how to get out. I couldn't leave him. He had power over me, over everything we had. She broke down, sobbing, but I couldn't feel pity for her anymore. Not after everything she had done. Not after she had shattered the life we built together. I had given her my heart, my trust, and she had taken it all and thrown it away without a second thought. As I stood there, frozen, staring at the woman who had once been my everything, I realized I had a decision to make. My heart screamed for her to leave, for her to face the consequences of her actions. But I didn't know if I could handle the truth of how deeply she had deceived me, the truth of how much of my life had been a lie. Could I confront her and demand the answers she owed me, or would I walk away, take the pieces of my broken heart, and leave her to face the wreckage of her own making? I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, to rage, to burn everything to the ground. But there was a part of me that still wanted to understand. I needed to know how far this betrayal went. I needed to know why. The anger was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. But there was something else too. Something darker, more dangerous. The need for answers. The need to know what had been happening behind my back. What else was she hiding? Would I stay and confront her directly? Or would I gather the strength to walk away and seek the truth on my own, without her involvement? The choice was mine, but the weight of it felt like a heavy burden I wasn't sure I was ready to carry. As I stood there, lost in thought, the question still hanging in the air, what would I do next? Would I confront her and risk tearing apart the last threads of this life I had once known? Or would I let the darkness of her secrets swallow me whole and leave without looking back? The story isn't over yet. The hardest decision still lies ahead, and I have no idea what comes next. But one thing is certain, my life, as I knew it, will never be the same again. I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, staring at Anna as she sat on the couch, her eyes wide with fear and guilt. The air between us felt thick, heavy with all the unspoken words, the tension that had been building for weeks. I had all the evidence I needed now, the texts, the receipts, the lies. But none of it seemed to matter anymore. This wasn't about the proof, it was about the truth, and I needed her to admit it. I needed her to say the words. "Anna," I said, my voice steady, though I felt like everything inside me was unraveling. "It's over. I know everything. The affair, the secrets, the lies. You can't hide from this anymore." For a moment, she didn't move. Her hands trembled in her lap, her lips pressed together tightly, as if she were trying to hold it all in. And then the floodgates opened. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You don't know everything, Ethan. You don't understand." Her words hit me like a slap. Denial. After everything, after I had laid it all out, she still refused to face the truth. I stepped closer, anger bubbling up inside me, mixing with the hurt. "Don't tell me I don't understand. I've been living in a lie, Anna. You've been hiding from me, from the life we built together. And now, you're still trying to make me believe that it's all just a misunderstanding." She didn't answer, her gaze dropping to the floor, her face pale. I wanted to see her break down, to feel the weight of what she had done, but instead, she just seemed numb. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew anymore. I waited, the silence stretching on for what felt like forever. The words I wanted to say, the anger I wanted to release, were all fighting to get out. Finally, she spoke again, her voice cracking with a mixture of guilt and frustration. "You don't get it," she said, barely able to meet my eyes. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. It got out of hand. I got lost, and I didn't know how to find my way back." Her voice trembled, but there was no remorse in her eyes, just the hollow echo of someone trying to justify the unjustifiable. She wasn't sorry for the betrayal itself. She was sorry she got caught. And what about the other things, Anna? The lies, the other person. What about the secret life you've been hiding? I demanded, my words sharp, cutting through the air. She flinched, but then, To my surprise, she finally looked me in the eye. "You're right," she whispered. "There's more. There's always been more. But I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to lose you." I felt my pulse quicken, every muscle in my body tensing as I waited for her to say it, waiting for the truth, the full truth, to come spilling out. But when it came, it wasn't what I expected. I wasn't just seeing someone else, Ethan. There's someone I've been connected to for a long time. Longer than you know, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. And it's not just an affair. It's deeper. He's not just some guy I met at work. He's involved in things that I shouldn't have gotten involved in. Things I shouldn't have kept from you. The world spun around me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. What the hell was she talking about? What do you mean? What kind of things? What's going on, Anna? Her gaze dropped again, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear. Real fear. In her eyes. "Ethan, there's more. He's not just anyone. He's dangerous. He's got ties to people, bad people. I got caught up in it, and I didn't know how to get out. I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought if I kept everything from you, you'd be safe." I stood frozen, the full weight of her betrayal crashing over me in waves. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was living a life I had never imagined, a life I couldn't have prepared myself for. My mind raced, trying to process everything she was saying, but it didn't make sense. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? 1,000 emotions flooded my mind. Rage, disbelief, confusion. I wanted to scream, to run, to break everything in this room that had once felt like home. But something else was brewing inside me, too. A voice in my head whispered, "What do you do now, Ethan? Do you forgive her? Do you try to fix this? Or do you walk away from everything?" The confrontation had stripped me raw, leaving me with nothing but questions. Could I ever trust her again? Could I live in a world where she had lied to me for so long, where her whole life had been a facade? "Do you even love me, Anna?" I asked, the words leaving my mouth like a punch. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and desperation. I do, Ethan. But I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of the life I got myself into. I was wrong, but it was never about you. I shook my head, my chest tight, unable to process her words. She had lied to me, and now she was asking for forgiveness. The decision was mine. Do I confront the depths of her deception, forcing her to face the consequences? Or do I leave it all behind, walking away from the shattered remains of the life we had built? The confrontation had shattered everything I once believed in, but the hardest part was yet to come, deciding what I would do next. Would I seek revenge, justice, or closure? Or would I let the pieces fall and walk away? The choice was mine, but it would change everything. I sat in the silence that followed the confrontation, the air thick with the weight of everything that had just happened. The room felt smaller now, like it was closing in on me. It wasn't just Anna I was facing anymore. It was everything I had built my life on. The trust, the dreams, the future we had talked about for so long. All of it had shattered in a matter of minutes. I could still hear her words in my head, echoing like a distant, haunting memory. "I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan." But those words couldn't undo what had been done. The lies, the secrets, the betrayal. I had spent years believing in someone, only to discover that the person I thought I knew was nothing more than a mask. The emotional turmoil was like a storm I couldn't escape from. I wanted to scream, to punch something, to lash out at her for everything she had taken from me. But instead, I sat there in the silence, my mind racing, my heart pounding, trying to make sense of a truth that had shattered everything I thought was real. As the days passed, I found myself lost in thought, staring out the window as life moved on outside, unaffected by the chaos inside me. I had always prided myself on being strong, on being someone who could handle anything. But this was different. This was a betrayal so deep, I wasn't sure I could ever fully recover from it. But somewhere in the midst of the pain, I began to realize something. Maybe this wasn't just about Anna. Maybe it was about me, too. I had spent so much time giving my heart away, trusting someone else to define my happiness, that I had forgotten how to trust myself, how to believe in my own judgment, how to recognize the warning signs that I had ignored for so long. This betrayal taught me something about resilience. It taught me that even when everything I had built crumbled, I could still stand. I didn't need someone else to make me whole. I had to learn to trust myself again, to rebuild what had been taken from me. Not just the relationship, but the trust in my own ability to make choices. The hardest part, though, was deciding what to do next. I could feel the anger inside me, burning like a fire that hadn't gone out. Part of me wanted revenge, to make Anna feel the same pain I felt, to expose her lies to the world. But as much as that part of me screamed for justice, there was another part that knew revenge wouldn't heal me. It would only keep me tied to the anger, tied to the pain. In the end, I knew what I had to do. I had to let go. I had to walk away from the broken relationship, from the lies, and from the person I thought I knew. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about moving forward. It was about taking back control of my life and finding my peace again. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do isn't letting go. It's facing the truth that you were living a lie all along. This is a story of betrayal, but it's also a story of survival. Because, in the end, the truth always comes to light.